friends, welcome to all. Today we will discuss about construction and working of induction motor. This topic is covered in the subject of electrical machines 2. Introduction. Three-phase induction motors are the most common and frequently encountered machines in the industry. Why? Because of simple design, then rigid construction, low price and easy maintenance. These are the reasons. And another most important reason is wide range of power ratings. Fractional horsepower to the 10 megawatt. So this is very wide range of these motors. Run essentially as constant speed from no load to full load. So it is a constant speed machine from no load to full load. Its speed depends on the frequency of the power source. So speed is dependent on frequency. Not easy to have variable speed control. So we can say that it is a disadvantage. Variable speed control is not easy. It requires a variable frequency power electronic drive for optimal speed control. So it is somewhat complicated for variable speed. Like any electric motor, a three-phase induction motor has a stator and rotor. There are main two parts, stator and rotor. The stator carries a three-phase winding called stator winding, while the rotor carries a short-circuited winding called rotor winding. Only the stator winding is fed from three-phase supply. The rotor winding drives its voltage and power from externally energized stator winding through electromagnetic induction, and hence the name is induction motor. So there is no power supply is given to the rotor. Power supply is only given to the stator, and through the electromagnetic induction rotor gets power. So because of this principle, this type of motor is known as induction motor. The induction motor may be considered to be a transformer with a rotating secondary, and it can therefore be described as a transformer type AC machine in which electrical energy is converted into mechanical energy. So this is the basic principle of motor, that is electrical energy is converted into mechanical energy. So induction motor we can consider as a transformer. For example, stator is considered as a primary and rotor is considered as a rotating secondary. So due to the electromagnetic induction, the rotor will rotate. So this is the basic principle of induction motor. Now construction. Three-phase induction motor has mainly two parts. One is stator and another one is rotor. The rotor is separated from the stator by a small air gap which ranges from 0.0 mm to 4 mm depending on the power of the motor. It means if the motor is small, then there is a small air gap, and for large power motors air gap will be more. Now we will talking about stator. So in this figure we can see the construction of a stator. See, its name suggests that it is a stationary part, so there is no moving part. It consists of a steel frame which encloses a hollow cylindrical core made up of thin laminations of silicon steel to reduce hysteresis and eddy current losses. So in this figure we can see here is a hollow cylinder, and it is made up of thin laminations of silicon steel. So this is the construction. A number of evenly spaced slots are provided on the inner periphery of the laminations. See, these are the slots, and in the inner periphery we can see some lines. These lines are nothing but slots, and it is made of laminations. The insulated connected to form a balanced three-phase star or delta connected circuit. So we can make both three-phase star or delta connected circuit. The three-phase star winding is wound for a definite number of poles. Okay, as per the requirement of speed. Greater the number of poles, the lesser is the speed of the motor. If the number of poles is less, then the speed will be high. So there is one equation, speed n is equal to 120 f upon p. If the frequency is constant, then speed is proportional to the number of poles p. So it is inverse proportional to pole. When three-phase supply is given to the stator winding, a rotating magnetic field of constant magnitude is produced. This rotating field induces currents in the rotor by electromagnetic induction. So this process is just the same as a transformer. In transformer, we know that whenever we are giving supply to the primary, we get induced voltage at the secondary side, and this is done using electromagnetic induction. Same way in induction motor, whenever three-phase supply is given to stator winding, the rotating magnetic field will be produced, and rotating field induces current in the rotor by electromagnetic induction. The stator of an induction motor is similar to that of synchronous machine. So this is all about stator. Now second main part is rotor. The rotor mounted on a shaft is a hollow laminated core having slots in its outer periphery. See, we have seen that in a stator there is a slot in the inner periphery, and in the rotor there is a slot in the outer periphery. The winding placed in these slots are called rotor winding. May be one of the following two types. So there are mainly two types of rotors are there in an induction motor. One is squirrel cage type and another one is wound type, or we can also say a slip ring type. Now squirrel cage rotor. This rotor has a laminated iron core with slots and is mounted on a shaft. So we have already seen that the laminated iron core with slots is mounted on a shaft. Aluminum bars are modeled in the slots, and the bars are short circuited with two end rings. See, keep in mind these things. The bars are short circuited with two end rings. In this figure, here we can see this is the end rings, and the bars are short circuited in this end rings we can see in this figure. The bars and the short rings look like a squirrel cage. So this whole arrangement is looks like a squirrel cage. So this type of motor is known as a squirrel cage rotor. This is the actual photograph of squirrel cage rotor. We can see different components or parts of the rotor. Here is a shaft. Here we can see shaft, and here we can see fan blades. Fan blades are both sides. Here also we can see fan blades. Then laminated iron core and aluminum bars are present. See, white lines in the outer periphery is nothing but aluminum bars, and laminated core is also there, and aluminum ring is provided here. This is the aluminum ring. So this is a typical squirrel cage rotor. Now we will discuss about phase wound or slip ring rotor. A three-phase winding is placed in the slots having the same number of slots as the stator. In this figure we can see here is a slot. These are usually connected in star. The ends are brought out and are connected to three insulated slip rings. Here we can observe three slip rings. Shape is almost bearing type shapes is there for slip rings. This arrangement makes it possible to connect additional resistances in the rotor circuit so as to increase the starting torque. This is the most important characteristics of the slip ring motor. By inserting external resistance, we can increase the starting torque. Here is the typical wound rotor induction motor is given, and we can see that three slip rings and three brushes are there. It is connected to the wound rotor, and we can see there is a three variable resistors. It is an external rotor resistance is connected to the brushes, and brushes are in contact with slip rings. So we can vary the resistance of the rotor by varying the external resistance, and by varying external resistance we can increase the starting torque. So this is the most important characteristics of the slip ring motor. Under normal running condition, the wound rotor is short circuited like a squirrel cage rotor. So this is the all about wound rotor. Here is the construction is given for shaft, slip rings, then windings, skewed rotors, all things we can see in this figure. Three slip rings are there. Okay, so three rounded shapes are three slip rings, and near to slip rings there are three brushes. Okay, I have done circle at brushes. So these are the brushes. Other parts also we can observe here. This is the bearing, this is shaft, and this one is the rotor slots, and here is rotor winding, and outer one will be the cover of motor. here we can see connection. So there are three wires are there, it means three-phase connection is given there. So this is the construction of slip ring motor. Now comparison of rotors. So we can compare squirrel cage rotor and wound rotor or slip ring rotor. First point is squirrel cage rotor is in the form of bars which are sorted at the ends with the help of end rings. We have seen in the construction figure. In other words, in a slip ring rotor is in the form of three-phase winding. No slip rings or brushes are there in the squirrel cage motor, and slip rings and brushes are present in the slip ring motor. Construction is simple for squirrel cage motor, and construction is somewhat complicated for wound rotor or slip ring motor, because there are three slip rings are there and three brushes are there. So construction will be somewhat complicated. External resistance cannot be added. External resistance cannot be added in the squirrel cage rotor because there are no slip rings, but it is possible to connect external resistance in a slip ring motor. Small starting torque. We can say it is a disadvantage of squirrel cage rotor. In this case, there is a starting torque is low as compared to slip ring motor. So in a slip ring motor, there is high starting torque. Starting torque cannot be adjusted in a squirrel cage motor, and in other way, in a slip ring motor, starting torque can be adjusted by adjusting the external resistance. So we can connect external resistance with the slip rings, and by varying the external resistance we can vary the starting torque. So this feature is not available in the squirrel cage motors. Frequent maintenance cannot be required due to absence of slip ring and brushes. See, slip rings are continuously contact with brushes, so there is a friction and mechanical losses are there. Brushes, we have to replace brushes in some time, so maintenance is required in a slip ring motor. Frequent maintenance is necessary due to the use of slip rings and brushes. Rotor resistance starter cannot be used for squirrel cage rotor because there is no connection of rotor, no slip rings, and rotor resistance starter is used in a slip ring motor. Speed control using rotor resistance control cannot be used because there is no slip rings. Speed control using rotor resistance control can be used in a slip ring motor. Less copper loss. Copper loss is less in a squirrel cage rotor, and high rotor copper losses in a wound or slip ring rotor. Efficiency is high in a squirrel cage rotor because there are losses are less. So efficiency and losses are inversely proportional. So efficiency of slip ring rotor is low as compared to squirrel cage motors. Now application of squirrel cage motor: lathe machine, fans, then water pumps, blowers, etc. And for heavy loads we can use wound or slip ring rotor. Cranes, elevators, compressors, lifts, etc. are the application of wound rotor or slip ring rotor. Now this is the induction motor parts. or we can say components of induction motor. Here we can see here is a shield and flange. It means it is a cover, one type of cover. Then we can see bearing. Here is a bearing. Generally ball bearing is used in a induction motor. Then we can see shaft. It is a shaft, and it is a wound rotor. So because of wound rotor, there are slip rings are there, and brushes are also present because of wound rotor. And in the other side also there is a bearing. Generally ball bearing is used in an induction motor. And here is a stator, and above the box there is a connecting box. So the power supply given to the stator is connected in this connecting box. Slip ring and shield. So this is one type of cover of slip ring. So it will protect the slip rings from the mechanical damage or any other things. And then we can see fan. So fan cover is also there, fan and shield is there, okay, because fan is moving at a speed of a motor. It is directly connected to the shaft of the motor. So for safety purpose there should be fan and shield. And above the fan and shield we can see brush inspection door. So through this door we can observe the brushes. If the brushes are not in a good condition, then we have to replace the brushes, because wear and tear losses, friction losses are there. So in a frequent time we have to replace these brushes. So this is the main parts of a induction motor. Now we will see one by one components. First we will see frame. To provide mechanical support to the entire construction, frame is used. Okay, it contains the stator winding of the induction motor. So stator winding is directly connected with frame. Okay, then stator and rotor core. It is built from high quality low loss silicone steel laminations and flash enameled on both sides. Okay, so core is made from silicone steel. So we have to keep in mind this thing. This is the material used for core. Now rotor winding have moisture proof insulation mica and high quality varnish. Then air gap, it provides the space for the rotating magnetic field between stator and rotor. So air gap is nothing but it is a space between rotor and stator, and it is the varies from 0.4 mm to 4 mm. If the motor is a small size, then there is a small air gap. If the in a large size motor, the air gap will be large. Now fans. Fans are rotates with the rotor. Its function is to cool down the motor. So it is very simple. Slip rings. The rotor winding terminals are permanently connected to the slip rings. The slip rings are continuously in contact with the three brushes. So we can transfer the power from slip ring to brushes, and we can also connect the external resistance to the slip rings. So we can increase the starting torque of the slip ring induction. Now, induction motor speed. At what speed will the induction motor run? Can the induction motor run at a synchronous speed? Why? The answer of this question is, if rotor runs at synchronous speed, which is the same speed of the rotating magnetic field, then the rotor will appear stationary. It means a rotor will not rotate to the rotating magnetic field, and the rotating magnetic field will not cut the stator. So no induced current will flow in the rotor, and no rotor magnetic flux will be produced. So no torque is generated, and the rotor speed will fall below the synchronous speed. So rotor speed will be below the synchronous speed. When the speed falls, the rotating magnetic field cut the rotor windings and a torque is produced. So conclusion of this discussion is, rotor speed will be always less than the synchronous speed, so that the torque is produced. Otherwise torque will not produced. Induction motor speed. So the induction motor will always run at a speed lower than the synchronous speed. We already discussed this. The difference between the motor speed and the synchronous speed is called the slip. It is defined as n slip is equal to n synchronous minus n motor speed. Here we have defined n slip is equal to slip speed, n sync is equal to speed of the magnetic field, and nm is equal to mechanical shaft speed of the motor. It means we can also say that it is a running speed. Now the slip. Slip is defined as S is equal to n sync minus nm upon n sync. It means synchronous speed minus motor speed divided by synchronous speed, where S stands for slip. Now notice that if the rotor runs at a synchronous speed, then S is equal to 0. Why S is equal to 0? If we place n synchronous in place of nm, then the numerator term will be 0. So answer of the slip will be 0. If the rotor is stationary, it means nm is equal to 0. Then slip will be n synchronous divided by n synchronous. So it will be cancelled out. So answer will be 1. So if the rotor is stationary, then slip will be 1. Slip may be expressed as a percentage by multiplying the above equation by 100. Notice that the slip is the ratio, and therefore there is no units. So from this we can say that if the slip is near to 0, if speed is near to synchronous speed, then slip is near to 0, and if the speed is near to 0, then slip will be near to 1. So this is all about slip. Thank you.